enthusiasts and relaxation seekers. My name is Cinephile ASMR, and today we are talking all things Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this will be entirely spoiler-free. I promise there's going to be no sort of hints or drops as to the reveals that happen in this movie because it is a multiverse. So, don't worry, it's entirely spoiler-free to the point where I'm just going to read the plot synopsis that the internet gives. That's it. So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness follows Dr. Stephen Strange as he casts a forbidden spell that opens a portal into the multiverse. However, a threat emerges that may be too big for him to handle. This has been a movie that I've very much been looking forward to. I have a lot of fun with the first Doctor Strange, and even rewatching it, there was a lot of things to enjoy. The trippy, psychedelic imagery and action sequences, it's a lot of fun. I just don't find Stephen Strange inherently an interesting character. I think the mysticism and the chakras and energy, the portal dimension, the powers that he has as the sorcerer is so much more interesting than the character himself. The reason why I wanted to watch this movie so badly was because of one reason, 2 words: Sam Raimi, Papa Raimi. And I was nervous. I was able to go to this Soups fan event, which is this TikTok creator, and a bunch of creators went. There was cosplays, lines wrapping around the theater. The anticipation was there. I got to that event hours before it started, and it really started to hit me. I was going to see a Sam Raimi film. This is the guy that has made my entire livelihood. I've talked about to ad nauseum just how much the Maguire Spider-Man films mean to me, but him as a director is always so humble and filled with life. There isn't a project that he half-asses. He fully commits. And I was worried because this was not originally a Sam Raimi film. This was Scott Derrickson, but they left because them and Marvel had creative differences. Derrickson wanted to make a horror movie. Marvel wanted to not make it as scary. So then they hired Sam Raimi. And what did I think? Well, let's talk about the characters real quick. In this massive multiversal project, it really comes down to a few of the frontrunners. You have Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange, Wanda Maximoff played by Elizabeth Olsen, Benedict Wong as Wong, and newcomer Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez, with also Rachel McAdams as Christine. So it really does stick to them as the central characters. It does get multiversal, but I will say you need to temper your expectations. When I went to this theater and I went to this experience, these are diehard Marvel fans that flew from around the world to experience it. And by the end, it was very divided. There were some people that loved it. There were some people that were kind of confused by it. There were some people that were overwhelmed. And there were some that did not like it very much at all. This is, and I, as someone, one thing was Sam Raimi, and I wanted to get Raimified to the T. I got that. Surprisingly, this felt truthfully like a Sam Raimi project before a Marvel film, which is mind-blowing because if you consider the fact that Raimi himself came onto the project late, the script was pretty much finished, and he himself has stated he didn't come to make a Sam Raimi film, he came to make a Marvel film, and it was the first time in his creative process that he really was only going there to help uplift a project instead of making it entirely his own. But you could have fooled me because my goodness, head to toe, from the camera and the technical elements to the visuals to the storytelling, this is a Sam Raimi junket. It has tons of surprises, but it moves at a breakneck pace. This film is only 2 hours and 6 minutes with credits like an hour and 58. It's clocking in at the shortest runtime of a movie in Phase 4, a multiversal project which is supposed to set up a lot and discuss what is led before it. WandaVision, Loki, No Way Home, be a Doctor Strange sequel, all in 2 hours. It doesn't entirely stick the landing, but like I said, it leaves me stuck between 2 positions. I can look at this very critically as a film lover, but also someone assessing the movie as it is, or someone who just went in wanting to be Raimified. And I'm stuck in the middle because I love this film. I really do. I had a blast with it, even though it is dense in terms of everything that they put in. It could be a lot worse though, but I definitely feel the issue is not the script that isn't bad. It is a product that is a lot. It is messy, but it's Sam Raimi, and I can't stop stressing that enough because this is a movie that Marvel I never thought would actually make. There is moments in this film, not spoiling anything of course, that my theater was reacting to an insane amount, not just because of the cameos or the reveals, but because of how truthful and committed the whole team behind the film are into making it as intense of an experience as possible. While Scarlet Witch perhaps isn't my favorite MCU villain, I will say right here, right now, she is the most intimidating. There was moments of pure petrification. Is that it? Wait. Petrification. I'm making that a word now. I was petrification times 100. It is a crime to the levels that Raimi was able to get away with the things that he was. I'm not here to say it is an R-rated movie, but given the fact that Marvel has really instilled this formula and Phase 4 has kind of really just changed that, this was a huge surprise to me, and I know it's going to upset a lot of fans. This isn't really a Doctor Strange film. The title character himself probably, in my opinion, gets a bit more of a backseat experience in favor for it being a Wanda story. I'm not mad by that though. Like I said, I wasn't in love with Stephen Strange enough as a character from the first film and the movies that he's appeared in since to really make any bones about that. But I will say it might upset some people, and it kind of does frustrate though, in the regard that you can clearly see there was a lot that was stripped in terms of character development. There's one laughable moment that I thought about after I finished. I was like, wait, the last thing we ever saw of this certain character was in this position, and we never see them again. There's a lot to this movie, but seriously, like I said, it's that conflicting edge. As someone who is endlessly inspired by Raimi and his execution, this is less a Maguire Spider-Man, Sam Raimi, and far more an Evil Dead Sam Raimi, like a Drag Me to Hell. It is campy, it is cheesy, but it is true to form. It is very aware of what it's trying to be. It doesn't change the fact that that is not what it's trying to do. And it has fun, it lets loose, it has the campy one-liners that Raimi's known for. It has the whip pans, the crossfades, the zoom in and outs, the hyper zooms on that face, the transitions, the musical needle drops. It has everything that would make for a recipe in a Sam Raimi film, and surprisingly, yes, it does have those MCU checkboxes proverbially, but I think there's a relationship found between the both of them. It isn't one vision trying to overlap the other, but there's a nice connection found, and it only really could have been done by Sam Raimi. I can't think of anyone better suited for the job, and honestly, I've heard him say in interviews that he's thinking of taking another break, as it was 10 years since his last massive blockbuster film with Oz the Great and Powerful back in 2013. But honestly, there's no one I could actually see more now involved for the third Doctor Strange film than him, where the movie sets up and leaves off, asks so many more questions than answers. But in my head, Sam Raimi, if he's on board from the jump and not an afterthought, it could end up being one of the greatest comic book movies we have ever been graced with. The character moments are light, Xochitl Gomez being a massive standout, and I was very fortunate at this event to get to see her and get interviewed. She was talking about how fulfilling it was at this young of an age during a pandemic to make a project as massive and filled with love as Multiverse of Madness is. Talked about Sam, talked about Benedict, and everyone was just so lovely. It was crazy to hear, but she nails it with what she's given. She soars and is going to be a tremendous impact and monumental pillar for what's going to happen next in the MCU. It does kind of leave me wondering though, once I finish this film, I was thinking, where are we going to go from here? I know there's movies that are slated, and I will not even get into how I feel that kind of diminishes the shock value and that level of suspense, because if a character is dead, you know they're going to have a sequel that's going to come out in 2 years from now. But I digress. It made me think about, everyone knows that these are the current popular choice of film, just like westerns were in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But I feel like we're inching closer and closer to the peak. And when we reach that peak, it's just down from there. Not down in a bad way, just down in terms of popularity. And I think after having seen this at this event and hearing the division, because I, as a Raimi fan, was eating so plentiful were completely outrageous. And I was thinking, I feel like people want to see a slideshow rather than a movie. And I felt like the Illuminati reveal, which is in the trailer, what happens with that honestly might have been my least favorite part, but it was so self-contained and it never derailed from the central characters in the story at hand that I wasn't upset, and it lends itself to one of the most surprising moments in terms of like pure shock value. I couldn't believe that they were able to get away with it. Don't take your little kids to go see it, or your little cousins or brothers or sisters, unless you want to get them traumatized, by all means. I couldn't help but wonder to myself, has Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot? Because like a movie with multiverse in the title, so many people expect there to be all these cameos, and I've heard a lot on the internet how disappointing it was, but I loved it. It put the central characters and the story at hand as a primary and the cameo second, which it should always be. But hearing these outbursts, I think the Marvel formula, and now that Phase 4 is doing something very different where it's not trying to make it all connect so cohesively, but doing all of these individual serialized stories, it's working for me, but for a lot of people it isn't. So we'll see. But I really did have a great time with this movie. It's a lot. It's short. It could have been 20 minutes longer. I would like to see the untethered Raimi that has been cut in a lot of ways, but was still so prevalent. The last final battle, I couldn't believe that I was witnessing the Raimi on display that I was. I was giggling like a little school child, and it certainly did leave a bit of a divide in my theater because I was giggling out of pure amazement, but some people were laughing at the movie instead of with it. So this sort of vision is going to shake up a lot of feathers, but hey, I love that because art that elicits a very different reaction from everyone, I think, condones a conversation that's much more well-rounded and grand than that of if everyone loved it. And that's the beauty of it. But with all that being said, as a movie, critically, it's a mess. It's way too short. It is bloated. I wish there was a bit more character moments. But with what I got, I loved. And as a Raimi fan, I adored it. It is the most directed, visually stylized, but with a point, precise Marvel film from a technical level. Direction, cinematography, score, Danny Elfman. Yes, one moment in particular, I was hollering. And Sam Raimi puts his stamp and approval on it in the best directed MCU project ever, but with a story and studio interference that weighs it down a bit. But it isn't enough for me to not love it as much as I did. After having thought about it a lot, I'm going to give Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness a very strong B+. I loved it, top to bottom in many ways, because like I said, my one desire was Raimi, and we got that. We were fed plenty. So if you're looking for a good time with some cheese and pure Sam Raimi, with cameos that are there, set up a lot, but definitely kind of has that issue with putting too much in such a little amount of time, you're gonna have so much fun. Seriously, let me know what you guys thought of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. After seeing Wanda go full Scarlet Witch, are you still Team Wanda? I know I am. I loved it, especially where it kind of leaves off. Oh my goodness, the setup and the potentiality for it all, limitless. But seriously, let me know what you guys thought down below. If you'd like to see me do a Marvel Cinematic Universe ranking, I know that's gonna rustle a lot of feathers, more so than this movie did, but I'm fully prepared for it because I have a lot to say. Drop your comments down below. As always, I love you guys so very much. Still making this very big video for you guys. Stay tuned for that, but as always, remember to take life one frame at a time.